දෙදහස් වසක් අභිමානගී ඇසු ජාත මව්බිම පැසිනා
දෙදහස් වසක් අභිමානගී ඇසු ජාත මව්බිම පැසිනා
සුවහස් කපක් නොසිදී රැකෙන්නට සූර්ය දෙව් ආරාධනා සූර්ය දෙව් ආරාධනා දසමාර බිම්බර සෙන්දපා ඉනිමෙත් නුවන් ලද මේ උදේ දහසක් බුදුන් බුදු පැයේ ඉන්ද්‍ර මංගල සාදයේ මේ ඉන්ද්‍ර මංගල සාදයේ හිරුතුන්යලක් සිරිපාපුදා වැඩු පින් පුරා දෝතින් ගෙනා
හිරුතුන්යලක් සිරිපාපුදා වැඩු පින් පුරා දෝතින් ගෙනා
තිබිරිසැනින් අරුණින් නොවානෙතු සවසතුන් අනුමෝදනා සවසතුන් අනුමෝදනා දසමාර බිම්බර සෙන්දපා ඉනිමෙත් නුවන් ලද මේ උදේ දහසක් බුදුන් බුදු පැයේ මේ ඉන්ද්‍ර මංගල සාදයේ මේ ඉන්ද්‍ර මංගල සාදයේ
වසත් කාලයයි
නික උයන් වතු මැදින් හමායයි නව මන්ද මාරුතේ
සොඳුර මේ අප පැතුම් සුපිපෙනා එත මිතුරු වසත් කාලයයි වසත් කාලයයි නොමතවින් රාත්‍රිය දිගු විනයි හෙට දවස මීවිතක් සේදිසෙයි නිදැල්ලේ ගලාගිය ජී අතරදීගින් නිවයි
නිත උයන් වතු මැදින් හමායයි නව මන්ද මාරුතේ
සොඳුර මේ අප පැතුම් සුපිපෙනා හිත මිතුරු වසත් කාලයයි
නිත උයන් වතු මැදින් හමායයි නව මන්ද මාරුතේ
සොඳුර මේ අප පැතුම් සුපිපෙනා හිත මිතුරු වසත් කාලයයි
විල්තරේ පියුම් පිපි සුගන්ධවත් වෙවී දැල් පවන් ගලා ප්‍රබෝධයෙන් ප්‍රබෝධ වී දිඟුණදින් විහඟ තුඩින් ගලා ගලා හැලී ගීතයක් වෙලා හිටක් නැගින් උදැසනේ ගීතයක් වෙලා හිටක් නැගින් උදැසනේ කරල්න මේ සිරි බරවාසනාවිනි සත්නුවන් සිනා දොර දොර වූ උදානිනි දැත වීරියෙන් දිනු දාගින්දෙන් ඔපවුණු අභිමානවත් දයක් රැගෙන වඩින් උදැසනේ ඉල්තරේ පියුම් පිපි සුගන්ධවත් දෙවී ඇල් පවන් ගලා ප්‍රබෝධයෙන් ප්‍රබෝධ වී දිඟුණදින් විහඟ තුඩින් ගලා ගලා හැලී ගීතයක් වෙලා හිටක් නැගින් උදැසනේ ගීතයක් වෙලා හිටක් නැගින් උදැසනේ සිත් පිරිනිතින් යහගුණයෙන් උදාර වූ ලොල් වඩන උපන් බිම වෙත වැනි නිධාන වූ සෞලෙවන් පැතුම් තුළින් සුරන්දෙලෙන් වොරැඳුණු යලි ජෝතිමත් දයක් රැගෙන වඩින් උදැසනේ ඉල්තරේ පියුම් පිපි සුගන්ධවත් දෙවී ඇල් පවන් ගලා ප්‍රබෝධයෙන් ප්‍රබෝධ වී දිඟුණදින් විහඟ තුඩින් ගලා ගලා හැලී ගීතයක් වෙලා හිටක් නැගින් උදැසනේ ගීතයක් වෙලා හිටක් නැගින් උදැසනේ
වෙහෙරේ කොත් කැරැල්ල මතින් නැගෙන දාම් රැල්ල සාදු දනන්දෙව් පුදවන් මැණික් ගම්තෙරේ එරන් මයුර අසුන්නරා දොළොස් අතක බරණ දරා රුහුණු පුරේ යොද තෙදවන් කදිර සුරින්දේ රුහුණු පුරේ යොද තෙදවන් කදිර කපුරු සුවඳ දුමින් නැගෙන සුවෙන් හදේ තැවුල් නිවන දොළොස් නෙතින් ලොව නරඹන දිව්‍ය විමානේ දනන් නගන දුක් නිවන්න කදිර සුරින්දේ කදිර සුරින්දේ ගිරිවෙහෙරේ කොත් කැරැල්ල මතින් නැගෙන දාම් රැල්ල සාදු දනන් දෙව් පුදවන් මැණික් ගන්තේරේ එරන් මයුර අසුන්නරා දොළොස් අතක බරණ දරා රුහුණු පුරේ ඔද තෙදවන් කදිර සුරින්දේ රුහුණු පුරේ ඔද තෙදවන් කදිර සුරින්දේ මයුර කලඹ සිරස තබා දවුල් හඬට පාද තබා උද දෙන බැටි මල් සරසා දිව්‍ය විමානේ තැවුල් අවුල් නිවන් හදේ කදිර සුරින්දේ කදිර සුරින්දේ ගිරිවෙහෙරේ කොත් කැරැල්ල මතින් නැගෙන දාම් රැල්ල සාදු දනන් දෙව් පුදවන් මැණික් ගන්තේරේ එරන් මයුර අසුන්නරා දොළොස් අතක බරණ දරා රුහුණු පුරේ ඔද තෙදවන් කදිර සුරින්දේ රුහුණු පුරේ ඔද තෙදවන් කදිර සුරින්දේ කදිර සුරින්දේ
The Ananda College Old Boys Association proudly presents Olcott Oration 2020 to be hosted as a virtual event live through Facebook, YouTube and the OBA website from the Kularatne Auditorium on the 28th of November from 4:45 p.m. onwards. The oration will be delivered by consultant Dr Anil Jasinghe on Sri Lanka's retaliation to a global pandemic, COVID-19, a strategic perspective.
සරණින් සිත නිවලා දම් සරණින් නැන වඩලා බුදු සරණින් සිත නිවලා දම් සරණින් නැන වඩලා සංඝ සරණින් පව් දුරලා මිතුන් බෙලෙන් ජය ලැබලා සංඝ සරණින් පව් දුරලා මිතුන් බෙලෙන් ජය ලැබලා මංගලම් 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 සුතුරයි තුඩ තුඩ යාවේ වැසි පිරිතයි ජය පිරිතයි ගුවනත පාවේ රන් සුතුරයි නිත් සුතුරයි තුඩ තුඩ යාවේ වැසි පිරිතයි ජය පිරිතයි ගුවනත පාවේ මෙපින් බිමට සදාතනික ශාන්ති සදා දේ මෙපින් බිමට සදාතනික ශාන්ති සදා දේ මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම්
Mangalam, Mangalam, Mangalam.
රන්වැලි දළදා මහබෝ පිළිම වහන්සේ දිලි දිලි නිබඳ දොළොස් මහේ පහන්සේ
රන්වැලි දළදා මහබෝ පිළිම වහන්සේ දිලි දිලි නිබඳ දොළොස් මහේ පහන්සේ
මගේ දෙසට බසට රැසට ශාන්ති සදා දේ
මගේ දෙසට බසට රැසට ශාන්ති සදා දේ
මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම්
මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම්
බුදු සරණින් සිත නිවලා ධම් සරණින් නැන වඩලා
බුදු සරණින් සිත නිවලා ධම් සරණින් නැන වඩලා
සංඝ සරණින් පවුදුරලා මිතුන් වෙලින් ජය ලබලා
සංඝ සරණින් පවුදුරලා මිතුන් වෙලින් ජය ලබලා
මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම්
මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම් මංගලම්
ලස්සන මව් ලංකා මුතුල සයුරි තේජමාන දීපයයි මගේ මව්බිම ලංකා ඉන්දුනිල් ගංගුලල් පියුමින් සැරසු රුව ලස්සන මව් ලංකා මුතුල සයුරි තේජමාන දීපයයි මගේ මව්බිම ලංකා ලස්සන මවුලංකා මුතුල සයුරේ තේජමාන දීපයයි මගේ මව්බිම ලංකා නිදුනින් ගඟුලල් පියුමින් සැරසු රුව ලස්සන මවුලංකා මුතුල සයුරේ තේජමාන දීපයයි මගේ මව්බිම ලංකා
The Ananda College Old Boys Association proudly presents Olcott Oration 2020 to be hosted as a virtual event live through Facebook, YouTube and the OBA website from the Kularatne Auditorium on the 28th of November from 4:45 p.m. onwards. The oration will be delivered by consultant Dr Anil Jasinghe on Sri Lanka's retaliation to a global pandemic, COVID-19, a strategic perspective.
වැලිතල අතරේ එමිහිට බසිනා වැලිතල අතරේ එමිහිට බසිනා නිරංජන නදියේ කයා හිස වැඩ සිට බුදු උනුදා තිලෝහිමි මොක්සුවලද මොහොතේ සමාධී භාවනා සමාධී භාවනා කඳු වැටියේ සීතල හෙවනේ හිම කඳු වැටියේ සීතල හෙවනේ චන්දන තුරු පීරා
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you who are tuning in from different time zones, a very good morning and very good afternoon as well. We are now witnessing the lighting of the traditional oil lamp by the following dignitaries. The principal of our college, Mr. S.M. Kularatne, the executive president of the Old Boys Association, Mr. Dushmantha Karanagoda, the man of the hour, our distinguished orator, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, Deputy Principal, Mr. Sarath Gunathilaka, Deputy President of the OBA, Mr. Bimal Vijay Singha, past presidents of the OBA, Mr. Isuru Samarasinghe, Mr. Lalit Senanayaka, Mr. Sitendra Senaratne, Mr. Jayantha Wickramasinghe, and immediate past President Mr. Asoka Karunaratne, as well as the Joint Secretaries of the OBA, Mr. Dinuka Chandrakirti, Mr. Sujiva Ratnamahal, the Treasurer of the OBA, Mr. Ruin D. Alvis, and last but definitely not least, the Vice President, Subcommittee Chairman, Mr. Samitha Seneviratne. Ladies and gentlemen, as the dignitaries make their way to the main auditorium, let us also remind ourselves as to why we are gathered here today. It is to pay tribute to Colonel Henry Steele Olcott, one of our founding fathers of our college, as well as one of the pioneers who spearheaded the movement for Buddhist revival, as well as the revival of Buddhist education. And also, as the dignitaries are making their way to the head table, I would also like to cordially invite the following dignitaries to come up on stage and take their place at the head table. The principal of our college, Mr. S.M. Kirthiratne, the orator for the evening, the man of the hour, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, the executive president of the Old Boys Association of our college, Mr. Dushmanta Karanagoda, and the Vice President, Subcommittee Chairman, Mr. Samitha Seneviratne. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national and college anthems.
Sri Lanka Mata, Appa Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata, Sundara Sri Tarini Sura
දින කිතු ගොත බෝවි වැජ වෙනුවන සමාසා දින දින කිතු ගොත බෝවි වැජ වෙනුවන සමාසා සුදිරි ජය වීරොවෙහි සාදා දීලා සතවා අලාද විනේද පහදා සාදා දීලා සතවා අලාද විනේද පහදා එවිතර සිංහල දරු කැල සතනා එවිතර සිංහල දරු කැල සතනා දින දින කිතු ගොත බෝවි වැජ වෙනුවන
Please remain standing while the Venerable Mahasangha will invoke the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem and guide us in observing the Panchasila. Avasarai Swamin Wahanse.
හොඳයි හැමදෙනාම සාදුකාරයක් පවත්වන්නේ පන්සිල් සමාදන් වීම සඳහා තුන්වරක් නමස්කාරය කියන්නේ
නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතු සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස
බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි
බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි
ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි
ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි
සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි
සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි
ဒတေယံ පේ බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ဒတေယံ පේ ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි ဒတေယံ පේ සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි තතේයම්පි බුද්ධං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි තතේයම්පි ධම්මං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි තතේයම්පි සංඝං සරණං ගච්ඡාමි පානාති පාතා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි අදින්නාදානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි කාමේසු මිච්ඡාචාරා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි මුසාවාදා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි. සුරාමේරය මජ්ජපමා දට්ඨානා වේරමණී සික්ඛාපදං සමාදියාමි. හොඳයි සාදුකාරයක් පවත්වන්න. දැන් මේ වෙලාවේ මේ අවස්ථාවට සම්බන්ධ වෙන විද්‍යාලයේ ගරු විදුහල්පතිතුමනි, ඒ වගේම විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ අවස්ථාවට පැමිණ සිටින පරිසර අමාත්‍යාංශයේ ගරු ලේකම් අනිල් ජාසිංහ මෙතුමනි, ඒ වගේම මේ අවස්ථාවට සම්බන්ධ වන ආදිස් සංගමේ සභාපතිතුමන් ඇතුළු, ඒ වගේම හිටපු සභාපතිතුමන්ලා ඇතුළු සියලුම ආදි ශිෂ්‍ය මහත්වරුනි, අද දවසේ අපි වාර්ෂිකව විද්‍යාලයේ සිදුවන හෙන්රි ස්ටීල් ඕල්කට් මෙතුමාණන්ගේ ගුණ සමරු වයි මේ වෙලාවේ සිද්ධ කරනු ලබන්නේ. මෙරටේ බෞද්ධ පාසල් ආරම්භ කිරීමේ මූලිකයා ශ්‍රීමත් හෙන්රි ස්ටීල් ඕල්කට් මෙතුමාණන්. එතුමාණන් කරපු ඒ උදාර කාර්ය නිසා තමයි අද අපි කවුරුත් මෙවැනි ශක්ති සම්පන්න පුද්ගලයන් හැටියට සමාජය තුළ කටයුතු කරනු ලබන්නේ. නිසා අපි විශේෂයෙන්ම ඔබතුමාලා හැම කෙනෙක්ම එතුමන්ලාට ණය ගැති අපිට කරපු සේවය, මෙරටට කරපු සේවය ඉතාම විශාලයි බෞද්ධ දරුවන් වෙනුවෙන්. නිසා අපි හැමදාම ගුණසමරුව සිද්ධ කරලා ඒ ගෞරවය දැක්විය යුතුයි. ඉතින් අපේ ආනන්ද විද්‍යාලයේ ආදි ශිෂ්‍ය සංගමය මුල් වෙලා සෑම වර්ෂයකම එතුමන්ගේ ගුණ සිහිපත් කරමින් එතුමන්ට කළ හැකි ඒ ගෞරවය, ඒ උපහාරය ඊටාම ඉහළින් දක්වනු ලබනවා. එනිසා මම මේ වෙලාවේ මේ සමරු උත්සවයේදී මූලිකත්වය ගැන කටයුතු කරන හැම දිනාටම තුනුරුවන්ගේ ආශිර්වාදය ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනු ලබනවා. හැම දිනාටම නිදුක් නිරෝගී සුවය චිරජීවන සැලසේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනු ලබනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම ආනන්ද විද්‍යාලය වැනි බෞද්ධ පාසල් ආරම්භ කිරීමේ මූලිකයා හැටියට කටයුතු කරපු ශ්‍රීමත් හෙන්රි ස්ටීල් ඕල්කට් මෙතුමාණන්ට අපේ ගෞරවය, අපේ උපහාරය මේ වෙලාවේ දක්වන අතර එතුමාණන්ට අපි පින් අනුමෝදන් කළ යුතුයි. අපි මේ වෙලාවේ එතුමාන්ට ඔබ අප කවුරුත් එකතු වෙලා සිද්ධ කරගත්ත පින් එතුමාණන්ට අපි අනුමෝදන් කරනවා. එතුමාණන් මේ පින් අනුමෝදන් වෙලා එතුමාණන්ගේ පරලොව ජීවිතය යාපත් කරගනීවා, දියුණු කරගනීවා, උතුම්මෝ නිවන් සම්පත් සාදා ගනීවා කියලා කවුරු සාදුකාරයක් පවත්වලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරන්න. ඒ වගේම මේ අවස්ථාවට සම්බන්ධ වෙන අපේ පරිසර අමාත්‍යාංශයේ වර්තමාන ලේකම් වෛද්‍ය අනිල් ජාසිංහ මෙතුමාණන්, ඒ වගේම ගරු විදුහල්පතිතුමාණන්, නියෝජ්‍ය විදුහල්පතිතුමාණන්, ඒ වගේ ආදි සංගම සභාපතිතුමාණන්, ඒ වගේ හිටපු සභාපතිවරුන් ඇතුළු ආදි සංගමයේ හැම දිනාටම මම මේ වෙලාවේ තුනුරුවන්ගේ ආශිර්වාදය ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. දෙවියන්ගේ රැකවරණය සැලසේවා කියලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. හැම දිනාටම නිදුක් නිරෝගී සුවය, චිරජීවන සැලසේවා, කායික මානසික සුවයෙන් යුක්ත වාසනාවන්ත ජීවිතයක් ගත කරන්නට ශක්තිය, ධෛර්යය සැලසේවා කියලා කවුරු සාදුකාරයක් පවත්වලා ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරගන්න. ඔහොම වැඳගන්න පිරිත් ගාතාවක් මම දේශනා කරනවා. හැම දිනාටම ආශිර්වාදයන් සිද්ධ කරමින්. සබ්බීතියෝ විවජ්ජන්තු සබ්බ රෝගෝ විනස්සතු මාතේ භවත්වන්තරායෝ සුඛී දීඝායුකෝ භව භවතු සබ්බ මංගලං රක්칸තු සබ්බ දේවතා සබ්බ බුද්ධානුභාවේන සබ්බ ධම්මානුභාවේන සබ්බ සංඝානුභාවේන සදා සොත්ති භවන්තු තේ. හැමදෙනාටම තෙරුවන් සරණයි.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving on with today's proceedings, may I now invite this evening's orator, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, the principal, Mr. S.M. Kirthiratna, and the president of the Old Boys Association, Mr. Dushmantha Karannagoda, to pay tribute to Colonel Henry Steele Olcott, Vadipasinghe Venerable Migettuwatte Gunananda Thera, and Venerable Hikkaduwe Sri Sumangala Nayaka Thera, respectively. The three key individuals who spearheaded the movement of Buddhist revival of Ceylon and the creation of Ananda. Thank you very much. You may now be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, each and every one of us is different. We have a right to choose to be whatever we want to be. And the presence of these differences is humanity's greatest asset. It is our greatest strength. However, these differences should never be used as a basis for discrimination, oppression, or mistreatment. Regardless of one's belief, race, gender, sexuality, every human being has a right to freedom of thought, religion, and conscience. Every human being has a right to education. Every human being has a right to be able to freely express themselves. Sadly, this was not the case in colonial Ceylon, especially by the 19th century. The native populace of this country faced extreme prejudice and discrimination, especially under the Colebrook-Cameron reforms of 1833. The local communities were severely underrepresented, with only one Burgher, one Tamil, and one Sinhalese in legislation. Some of the communities were not even represented. Moreover, the colonialists, they strived to mitigate or stifle and discourage local religious education. And obviously, Buddhism was one of these religions. And this was when Venerable Sri Hikkaduwe Sri Sumangala Thera, Venerable Ratmalani Dharma Ashoka Thera, and Venerable Ratmalani Dharma Rama Thera took upon themselves to take up Piriven education and do their level best to save what was left of Buddhist education. Meanwhile, while all of this was going on in Ceylon, a really curious American scholar, a scholar who was eager to learn more about the doctrines of Buddhism, arrived in Ceylon on 16th May 1880. And little did we know that the serendipitous arrival of this individual would change the fate of Buddhist education not only in Ceylon, but arguably the entire world. And this individual is none other than Colonel Henry Steele Olcott. At that time, there were only a few schools that provided education to Buddhists, and the total attendance at these schools was less than 300. And seeing this discrimination and this disparity, Colonel Olcott realized and decided that the best way for Buddhism to prevail in this country was through education. So, together with Venerable Hikkaduwe Sri Sumangala Thera and Venerable Migettuwatte Gunananda Thera, Colonel Olcott reached out to the hearts and souls of the general populace, the common people, to garner the support necessary to uplift and ensure the existence of Buddhist education in Sri Lanka. And to this end, the Buddhist Theosophical Society was formed. After many years of tedious campaigning, sweat, blood, and tears. The English Buddhist Academy was formed on November 1st, 1886, with Charles Leadbeater, an Englishman, an English theosophist actually, as the principal. So, what started off as a small two-storied building at number 61 Maliban Street, Petta, with just 37 students and 3 teachers, has now transformed into this monumental institution and extensive community that is Ananda. Ladies and gentlemen, the chronicle of Ananda goes hand in hand with the legacy of Colonel Henry Steele Olcott. He was an outsider, a foreigner, a white man that had no stake in the well-being of Ceylon or its people. However, he saw a community. He saw a community that was being discriminated, a community that was being mistreated, and he decided to do what he thought was the right thing to do at that time. Ladies and gentlemen, the founding fathers of Ananda believed that being a true ideal Anandian is a state of mind. It's a manner in which one conducts himself or herself for self-development as well as the development of others. And as long as we stay true to these principles and do not deviate from them, the legacy of Colonel Henry Steele Olcott will live on. And as long as we learn from the injustices and the mistakes of our past and say no to ego, discrimination, oppression, and segregation, and treat each other with love, compassion, tolerance, and most importantly, open-mindedness, you and I, we can change this country, we can change this world for the better. And I'm going to leave you with that thought, ladies and gentlemen, and invite on stage the Executive President of the Old Boys Association of Ananda College to welcome each and every one of you. Mr. Dushmanta Karanagada, everyone tuning in from across the globe to the Olcott Oration 2020.
අයබෝවන් Venerable Mahasangha, our principal, Mr. S.M. Kirtiratne, orator this evening, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, Vice President of the OBA and Chairman of the Organizing Committee of Olcott Oration 2020, Mr. Samitha Senaviratne, and the members of the committee, Deputy Principals, past Presidents, and the members of the Management Committee of OBA, distinguished invitees, fellow all Anandians and well-wishers, joining the live cast from Sri Lanka and overseas. I'm greatly honored to welcome all of you to Colonel Henry Steele Olcott Memorial Oration 2020. The oration this year is taking a new dimension as we are opening it up to a global audience through live streaming, through our website and the Facebook and the YouTube. There will be many Anand alumni joining us on the live cast globally, in addition to our friends from Sri Lanka to follow the oration. Regretfully, in keeping with the government regulations, we are unable to accommodate many in the auditorium due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As you all know, our alma mater had a humble beginning 134 years ago when she commenced her immeasurable services to the country and the nation, and particularly to Buddhism as Buddhist English School in Petta with only 37 students. However, as most of you will know, an enormous amount of background work had been done by prominent Buddhists led by Venerable Mahasangha, particularly Most Venerable Hikkaduwe Sri Sumangala Thero and Venerable Migettuwatte Gunananda Thero, together with Colonel Olcott before the establishment of the school. Ananda has achieved many milestones since then and has produced pioneers in many fields, be it medical, engineering, legal, civil service, sports, military, arts and culture, media, and politics. It is a matter of pride to mention that Ananda has produced the 7th executive president of the country. We are therefore indebted to our founders, especially Colonel Olcott, who came all the way from USA to give leadership to start Buddhist education in schools, bringing in a paradigm shift in education for non-Catholic children, non-Christian children. Keeping all stated above in mind, the Old Boys Association of Ananda organizes this annual oration in grateful remembrance of all those selfless patriots for their commitment and tireless work. Today, we have with us another leader from the medical profession, a distinguished son of Ananda, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, who, as Director General of Health Services, contributed immensely to control the first wave of COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, he serves as the Secretary to the Ministry of Environment, and you will hear more about him when Professor Hiran Amarasekara introduces him. As the time is limited, I will stop here, but I am sure you will be following a very interesting and informative presentation by Dr. Jasinghe. Our members joining the live cast will be sadly missing the fellowship and refreshments after the oration. However, on a lighter note, we will try to send them some virtual refreshments. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Colonel Henry Steele Olcott is an important Sri Lankan national hero and is perhaps the most important of such heroes who was born overseas. Colonel Henry Steele Olcott was born in 1832 in the United States. A journalist and a lawyer, Colonel Olcott achieved early distinction as an officer in the U.S. Army during the American Civil War, which was fought from 1861 to 1865, achieving emancipation of the slaves in the United States. He served in several important military and governmental roles in the course of his career. The Panadura Vadaya, or the Panadura debate, was instrumental in Colonel Olcott visiting Sri Lanka. Colonel Henry Steele Olcott co-founded the Theosophical Society in 1875, along with Ms. Helena Blavatsky and others. They transferred the headquarters of the society to India in 1878. Colonel Olcott and Ms. Blavatsky reached Colombo in 1880 and observed the Panchasila upon their arrival. At a time when the practice of Buddhism in the country was under serious threat, Colonel Olcott, along with his colleagues, instituted important measures to stem the deadline. Establishment of a network of Buddhist schools under the Buddhist Theosophical Society was of paramount importance. The network of schools include Ananda College, Colombo, Dharmaraja College, Kandy, and Mahendra College, Gaul. The Buddhist Theosophical Society schools had an uphill battle to fight for a long time, having to compete against the well-established missionary and British-controlled educational institutions of the time, whilst receiving no support from the establishment. However, the Buddhist schools established under the Buddhist Theosophical Society thrived, while also being a foundational element, the Buddhist revival in Sri Lanka. The Buddhist revival, in turn, was of paramount importance in the success of the independence movement. Colonel Olcott passed away in 1907 in Adyar, Chennai. The Buddhist revival in Sri Lanka played an important role in Buddhism, continuing to thrive in Sri Lanka despite many challenges, was also contributing substantially to the realization of independence for the country. Colonel Henry Steele Olcott played a very important role in the Buddhist revival. He's one of Sri Lanka's most important heroes and should be recognized as a key figure in the strengthening of Buddhism worldwide. Such was his enduring influence.
Ladies and gentlemen, moving on with today's proceedings. This particular individual had his entire school education from grade 1 to advanced level at Ananda College. He later entered the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura and obtained a special degree in biology as the best student in the batch. Later, he obtained his PhD from the University of Wales, UK, on forestry and timber products. At present, he is a professor in forestry and environmental science, as well as the director of digital media and communications at the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite on stage Professor Hiran Amarasekara to introduce the orator for today's gathering.
Mr. S.M. Kularatne, Principal of the Ananda College, teachers, fellow Anandians, old Anandians, ladies and gentlemen. I am privileged to have the honor of introducing you to the distinguished old Anandian who will be delivering the prestigious Olcott Oration for this year 2020. Back in the day when I was a young Anandian, sitting for my advanced level examination classes, I remember attending several thought-provoking lectures at Pasmahala. These lectures were organized by a student association by the name of Ananda Nuwana Sangame. Ananda Nuwana Sangame was not the most active until that point, but it is the new leadership managed to revive it to such a great extent that it messages, the articles, we filled with the knowledge and inspiration, covered all notice boards of preschools or the building where our biology and other laboratories were held. And interestingly, the association surpassed even the Buddhist society in its popularity. The Ananda Nuwana Sangame became fountain of wisdom to us Anandians, since it gave us the opportunity to engage with and listen to some of the best minds that Sri Lanka produced, such as educationalist, writer, social activist and philosopher, late Dr. E.W. Adhikaram, late Deshamanya Professor Nandadasa Kodagoda, newspaper editor and renowned novelist Karunasena Jayalatha, as well as film director, screenwriter Dharmasena Pathiraja, to name few whom I still recall with great interest and respect. This great innovative revival of the association was led by the same individual who will take stage in few moments. Born in Kamburupitiya, Matara, obtaining his primary education at a village school at first and then later Mahinda College, Galle, this phenomenal personality moved to Ananda College, Colombo to complete his secondary education. Even though his period spent under the shade of Mother Ananda was short, he definitely was one of those remarkable students who allowed his potential to truly blossom during few years as a promising scholar with a thirst for wisdom and a remarkable citizen with a hunger to survive his community. I say this because apart from excelling his education and reviving Ananda Nuwana Sangame, With such vigor, he was also able to restart one of the Sri Lanka's oldest science magazines, the Vidu Arana magazine, which saw articles from eminent scholars such as Professor Carlo Fonseca, Tilakaratne Kuruvita Bandara, and so on. Back then, this individual's vision was supported by some names that we hear quite frequently on national television today. The chief epidemiologist, consultant Dr. Sudha Samaravira of the epidemiology unit, who was also the treasurer of Ananda Sangam at that time, and consultant pediatrician Dr. Chandimadi Ellis, he was a secretary at that time. Fast forward to this date, we see many Anandians of our school days occupying some of the most prominent and responsible seats, especially in the government sector. This takes back to the golden era of our school led by Colonel G.W. Rajapaksa as our principal. I remember how once when Anaduruvana Sangame didn't have a physical space to do its activities, its leader, our speaker for the day, made the rebellious decision to block the hallway of the space crossing the adjacent to the biology laboratory and set up activities there. Seeing this, our principal, Colonel G.W. Rajapaksa, who was known to be a quite mellow scholar and a remarkable leader who inspired us all, asked everyone involved to come down to his office. It was somewhere there. And posted just one question to our speaker today. He asked only, do you know the meaning of Ananda Sangame? As a biologist, I believe in the significance of nature and nurture, that is genetics and the environment. I believe that opportunities we received to explore and grow, as well as its inspiring and knowledge-led environment, we were exposed at our alma mater during its golden days, played massive role in nurturing and elevating us to becoming who we are today. Sadly, this is a driver that I also strongly feel is severe lacking in our examination and competitive educational culture today. For example, if you walk along that corridor building, just now I walked there, and at that time we had knowledge-filled notice boards filled with societies. Now there are very few notice boards which are also filled with very old notices. With that note, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to introduce you this evening Consultant Dr. Anil Jasinghe. Obtaining his medical degree from Lvov State Medical Institute from Soviet Union, he obtained MSc, he obtained MD in Medical Administration from University of Colombo, and MSc in Community Medicine, and later he obtained his Master of Public Administration from Postgraduate Institute of Management attached to our University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. He joined medical administration as medical superintendent of the Provincial Hospital Badulla, then as Deputy Director of the National Hospital of Sri Lanka, in charge of accident and orthopedic services during the height of country's civil war. In 2009, he became director at the Colombo South Teaching Hospital and later the Deputy Director General at the National Hospital of Sri Lanka. Apart from being a prominent medical administrator who has contributed so many areas in the field, Dr. Jasinghe is also a researcher, scholar, and an artist. Dr. Jasinghe currently serves as the Secretary to the Ministry of Environment of Sri Lanka. However, he is best known for being Director General of Health Services in the Ministry of Health, Nutrition and Indigenous Medicine during the first wave of COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka. He was recognized and respected among his community of medical professionals and media, political leaders, and most importantly, the citizens of this country for the remarkable leadership he provided during that period in managing all stakeholders with great diplomacy and competence. Therefore, without further ado, let me warmly welcome the Olcott Orator for the year 2020, Consultant Dr. Anil Jasinghe.
Thank you, Hiran, for that introduction. The principal of the Ananda College, Mr. S.M. Kularatne, the deputy principal and members of the tutorial staff, the president, Mr. Dushmanta Karannagoda, and the members of the management committee and executive committee, Mr. Samitha Seneviratne, who was involved in organizing Olcott Oration, all Anandians, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And for those who are connected to us online from all over the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is indeed an honor to deliver the prestigious Olcott Oration for the year 2020. In fact, a few months ago, when Mr. President and Mr. Samitha came to my office to announce this in light event, I would say I was thrilled. I know the value of this invitation. It's a lifetime achievement for somebody to do this oration. So therefore, I thank the president and the executive committee, management committee of the OBA for inviting me to deliver the oration tonight. It must have been quite challenging to organize an event of this scale under the new normalcy. Of course, I had my part to play in bringing about this new normalcy during my tenure as the Director General of Health Services. The Olcott Oration is being live streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and Ananda College OBA as well. Let me begin by saying a few words about this great personality after whom this oration has been named. It is customary in orations to say some words about the personality. A visionary leader, trendsetter, and trailblazer, Colonel Henry Steele Olcott changed the destiny of an small nation. He laid the foundation for a pioneering school in the country, and we commemorate him with much adoration today. His unusual and illustrious life and groundbreaking achievements are unchallenged and unparalleled even in today's context. Exactly how a talented and accomplished Westerner from New Jersey, USA, ended up as the renowned and celebrated white Buddhist of Ceylon is a remarkable story worth recounting today, tomorrow, forever. Hence, I wish to take a few minutes, as is customary, to take you through the life story of a jewel of a human being before I embark on my presentation. Born in Orange, New Jersey, USA in 1832, Henry's father was a businessman and the Olcotts were devout Presbyterians. An unusually skilled agriculturalist, Henry Olcott became the agriculture correspondent of the New York Tribune in 1858. At the beginning of the American Civil War, he enlisted and was later promoted to the rank of colonel. Later, he was appointed to the Special Commission that investigated President Abraham Lincoln's assassination in 1865. He left the military in 1865 and returned to New York to study law. He was admitted to the bar in 1868 and enjoyed a successful practice specialized in insurance, revenue, and custom law. To that point in his life, Henry Steele Olcott was the very model of what a proper Victorian era American gentleman was supposed to be. But that was about to change. With his gradually increasing interest in metaphysics and supernaturalism, getting together with Madame Helena Blavatsky, he founded the Theosophical Society in 1875. Meanwhile, in Ceylon, there was trouble brewing. In the oppressive climate that existed following centuries of subjugation, most Ceylonese had lost their self-esteem. The Buddhists were still a long way behind in terms of modern education. In this backdrop, the Panadura Vadaya, led by several prominent priests with Venerable Migettuwatte Gunananda and Venerable Hikkaduwe Sri Sumangala Thero in the lead, acted as a catalyst for a chain of events that followed. The final debate was reported in some detail in the Ceylon Times, and Colonel Olcott, while living in USA, came to know about the same and immediately started corresponding with the prominent Buddhist priests in an attempt to learn more about Buddhism and the predicament of Buddhists in the country. Convinced that he could bring about a difference, Colonel Olcott arrived in Ceylon in 1880. Thus began the great Buddhist revival of Ceylon. He was committed, result-orientated, driven with passion, which was unique and had commendable organizational skills. He started working very closely with Reverend Hikkaduwe Sri Sumangala Thero. He embarked on a very difficult tour by bullock cart on primitive roads that lasted well over months, accompanied only by an interpreter. He wanted to raise funds for Buddhist education and wanted to take the true message of Buddhism to the people. Eventually, he wrote the book Buddhist Catechism, which was published in 1881, went through more than 40 editions, and got translated to over 40 languages. Colonel Olcott designed the Buddhist flag consisting of 6 colors, which is embraced by Buddhists world over. He also represented the Buddhist cause to British government and fought to find redress for restrictions imposed against Buddhism. He was also instrumental in getting Vesak declared as a public holiday. Improving Buddhist education was a top priority in Colonel Olcott's agenda. The Buddhist Theosophical Society was formed in June 1880 to drive this course. The Buddhist English School was established with 37 students and 3 teachers on 1st of November 1886, which is the official birthday of Ananda College. The name of the school was given when it moved to its present location in 1895. The founding of Ananda College was the high point of the revival, which stretched through 19th and 20th centuries. Urging educational advancement upon Ceylon Buddhists, he succeeded in establishing 3 colleges and 250 schools, a Herculean task made possible largely due to his untiring efforts and single-minded dedication to the cause. A splendid monument of noble work is what he left behind when he passed away on 17th February 1907. On a personal note, by now you would have heard of my life journey in some detail as read out by my friend Professor Hiran Amarsekar. As I matured as a person, as I came up in my chosen profession, as I walked through different phases in my life, many things have changed, but what has remained in the same is my heartfelt appreciation of the enriching time I spent at Ananda College. I am at a loss to express the gratitude I feel towards this great institution. My beloved school, my alma mater, Ananda College, I pay tribute to you. That being said, let's move on to my presentation titled Sri Lanka's Response to Global Pandemic COVID-19, a strategic perspective. I wish to share my experience as then Director General of Health Services of Sri Lanka in our fight against this global pandemic, and I have restricted my insights, opinions, and views to the time I performed as the Director General of Health Services, namely from January 2020 to mid-August 2020. This was the period during which Sri Lanka faced the initial outbreak of COVID-19, managed to successfully control the spread of it, and the country returned to a new normalcy, preserving the safety and well-being of the nation. Let me take you through different phases, the strategies formulated, the mechanisms put in place, and the actions initiated by us as a country. I will commence with incident in Wuhan, in China, which is where the story begins. China, for the first time, reported coronavirus epidemic in Wuhan to the World Health Organization on 31st December 2019. This disease has been in existence in China at least from November and has been recognized as an atypical pneumonia. The market in which in Wuhan city was closed on 1st of January 2020, where the patients were believed to have originated from. After 23 days, on 23rd of January 2020, the Wuhan city was locked down. As there was a lag period to lock down the city, the disease was spread to other areas, and China had to take tremendous efforts to curb the control the disease. First novel coronavirus patient outside China was reported in Thailand on 13th January 2020. Today, Thailand is considered as one of the leading countries which control COVID-19 successfully. This success has been attributed to the early and steady steps taken by the government of Thailand. For example, just 3 days after Wuhan reporting the outbreak, Thailand set up thermal scanning in airports. Contact tracing was given priority over difficult mass screening. In Thailand, the number of reported cases was low. Some were skeptical if the low numbers of reported cases was due to insufficient testing. However, since there hasn't been any sharp rise in unexplained deaths, the official report appeared to be correct. We witnessed COVID-19 rapidly spreading across the world. By 14th November 2020, the disease has already spread to 225 countries in the world. North and South America has been worst affected. The Asian region was not very far behind. The first COVID-19 patient in Sri Lanka was diagnosed on 28th of January 2020, who was a Chinese tourist. And then the first Sri Lankan COVID-19 patient was diagnosed on 11th March 2020. A technical committee chaired by the Director General of Health Services was established as early as 14th January 2020. Lengthy discussions took place at the technical committee to identify the ways and means for Sri Lanka during the anticipated crisis. We analyzed the global as well as regional COVID-19 situation, with a special emphasis on China, Italy, South Korea, in order to identify the best strategies available. As early as 15th of March, we proposed the following strategies to control COVID-19 in Sri Lanka to His Excellency, the President, through the Honorable Minister of Health. That was on 15th March. 1. Emergency mechanism to restrict the movement of public even to the extent of locking down. 2. Advise people to stay home as much as possible. 3. Non-essential workforce to stay home without reporting to work. 4. Establish mechanisms to maintain essential services. 5. Air restrictions from high-risk countries. These strategies were well received by His Excellency the President. Early actions were implemented based on those strategies. Our two guiding principles were, at the outset, the prevention of infection, coronavirus infection coming into the country, and later the prevention of spreading the infection in the country. Though at one point we failed to stop the virus coming into Sri Lanka, I believe by adopting that first strategy, principle, we were able to buy time to increase our readiness for the disease. On 25th of January 2020, the Health Steering Committee chaired by the Honorable Minister of Health was established. On the same day, thermal screening was activated at the ports of entry, and the PCR facilities were established at Medical Research Institute. It should be noted that Sri Lanka was one of the first countries in Southeast Asia to develop the capacity to diagnose COVID-19. On 29th of January, issuing online visa by Sri Lanka was suspended. By 30th January, on the quarantine front, the first quarantine center was established at the army camp at Diatalab. I believe that it would be clear to you by now that by the time the WHO declared COVID-19 as a public health emergency of international concern, or they call it FIC, Sri Lanka has already taken many steps to combat the spread of disease. On 2nd February, health declaration form for inbound passengers was introduced at Bandar Naik International Airport, initially for returnees from China and then expanded to all countries. On the curative front, by 10th of January, 12 hospitals were identified as isolation facilities to treat COVID suspect patients, and then the number was increased throughout. In addition to the National Infectious Disease Hospital at Angoda, we transformed certain hospitals as COVID treatment facilities, starting from Valikanda and Iranavilla. These hospitals were located in strategic locations. From 24th February, we started following up on persons returning from overseas for 14 days by public health inspectors at their residences. On 18th March, the Director General of Health Services delegated powers vested upon him by the Quarantine and Disease Prevention Ordinance to the Inspector General of Police for the COVID-19 control activities. On the same day, the entire country was declared a disease locality. On 20th March, COVID-19 was declared a quarantinable disease. Another gazette was released on 11th April pertaining to the disposition of confirmed and suspect COVID-19 deceased. This ordinance, which was enacted in 1897, proved to be still viable. With timely implemented public health activities, the country was able to successfully control COVID-19 clusters, which emerged from time to time, such as the Italy returnees cluster, Suduvella cluster, Keselwatta cluster, Navy cluster, Repatriates cluster, and Kandakadu cluster. Those are shown in this slide. By 17th August 2020, the cumulative number of COVID-19 patients in Sri Lanka stood at 2,895 cases, of which 2,765 were already recovered. This resulted in rock bottom 130 active cases with a recovery rate of 95.5%, which was a remarkable achievement for any country. Up to this date, only 11 deaths were reported, giving a case fatality rate of 0.38%, which again was one of the lowest in the world. Out of the patients, there were 1,045 primary cases and 1,716 secondary cases. The secondary cases get the disease from primary cases, as one primary case would infect more than one patient. So the number of secondary cases would be certainly more than number of primary cases. So there were 1,045 primary cases and 1,716 secondary cases. Then see what happens. The fact that only 233 tertiary cases resulted from 1,716 secondary cases speaks volumes about the COVID control in Sri Lanka. So from 1,045, it goes up to 1,716, and it dramatically comes down to 233. That is only because of the control that we waged. Otherwise, it should be more and more. That is what happened in other countries. In this graph, the orange line indicates the cumulative cases over time. The blue line indicates cumulative number of recovered cases over time. The gap between the orange and blue line at a given time, at any given time, indicates the number of active cases for that day. You could see that the gap expanding and narrowing at various points. When this gap narrows, that means the active cases are going down, which is a very good situation. The narrowest point, you could see the narrowest point, the point shows the situation just before the onset of Kandakadu cluster. With the control of Kandakadu cluster, you could see that the gap once again narrows. That is where we ended up. That was in mid-August. This next slide, this composite bar chart, comparing 10 countries. These are not small countries, I mean, these are prominent countries. 10 countries shows the number of days taken for every 500 cases to double. So you can, in this graph, you can see that Sri Lanka has taken more days to double its every 500, which is a very good situation. This graph is a testimony to the fact that Sri Lanka was far more successful in COVID-19 control with respect to the 9 countries in comparison here. When reflecting back on COVID-19 control activities in Sri Lanka, some cardinal attributes of the success could be identified as follows. The main attribute was the historically strong, time-tested public health system. Strong systems need strong leadership. Therefore, the able political leadership provided by His Excellency the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and the government was a key contributing factor for this success. Kind of apolitical approach to the problem, quick appraisal of the nature of the problem, and decisiveness were cardinal features of His Excellency. On the other hand, Honorable Minister of Health facilitated the entire process. The principles of epidemiology were put into practice early and decisively through implementing evidence-based disease control strategies. For instance, promoting physical distancing, admission of all positive patients to a health facility, intensive contact tracing, stringent quarantine mechanism, targeted PCR testing, and effective use of quarantine and disease prevention ordinance were among such evidence-based strategies. Out of these, the decision that we took to admit every single positive patient to a facility was of paramount importance. If we allowed the positive patients to be at home, the disease would have spread. So that was a very important decision that we took. The strategy of PCR testing in Sri Lanka was different from that of a country where social transmission is going on. When South Korea went rampant on PCR testing, there were voices stating that in Sri Lanka, testing was insufficient. There were 2 reasons why South Korea had to depend heavily on PCR testing. One is social transmission of the disease, and the other was absence of a public health system in that country. In contrary, Sri Lanka was at the level of cluster transmission, and we have a well-knitted public health system, as I mentioned before. Also, as mentioned earlier, therefore, the targeted PCR testing was the key for Sri Lanka. However, we realized that we had to increase the PCR capability in Sri Lanka, which we were doing throughout. The core strengths of organizations were called into action through a whole of government and whole of society approach. The role played by Sri Lankan Army in quarantine and the role played by State Intelligence Service in contact tracing was unparalleled, and without their services, the mission would have been quite difficult. The WHO, the development partners, private sector, and civil society actively contributed to address the challenges effectively and efficiently during the outbreak. The technical inputs of experts were given serious weight and consideration when making public health decisions. Healthcare workers rising to the occasion with compassion and care made the fight against COVID-19 vibrant. Effective management of media through a comprehensive risk communication strategy worked out well for us. At initial stages, we witnessed social media creating some negative impact. We quickly recognized, and our tactic of providing one lead news every day to media worked very well. So when you get a top lead, every media will work around that top lead. So we provided the lead for the day. Then with time, the mainstream media as well as social media both contributed positively to the cause. During lockdown, the government developed mechanisms to distribute essential goods and maintain essential services. The task force headed by Mr. Basil Rajapaksa spearheaded this process. In taking decisions vital to people, he did not leave health authorities. In fact, I participated very frequently at his meetings. If you remember, the home delivery of pharmaceuticals to the patients by hitherto non-operational postal services due to COVID was an innovative solution of tremendous worth. And there were many such innovative solutions made to address complex problems. Sri Lanka is a country with a significant proportion of overseas workers. Owing to the global COVID situation, the government took right measures to repatriate them in a systematic manner, creating a safe corridor so that the virus did not spread from them. As you know, there were voices that, getting them down would, have problems. But you could see that we created kind of a safe corridor so that the disease doesn't spread from them. Still, during lockdown period, Sri Lanka introduced workplace guidelines on prevention of COVID-19 in workplaces to sustain the economy and well-being of people. That was somewhat earlier, because the sustaining economy, sustaining livelihood is very important. So therefore, these guidelines were produced very early. With the country situation improving, Sri Lanka started introducing exit criteria. The concept of new normalcy was introduced to the society in the month of June to embrace the new safety culture with life moving on. Sri Lanka has gone down in the history as one of the few countries which held a national election successfully under strict COVID guidelines. In the month of June, health guidelines for conducting the elections amidst COVID outbreak were released by the Ministry of Health and Indigenous Medical Services in collaboration with Elections Commission of Sri Lanka. The parliamentary election was held on 5th August 2020 with all Sri Lankans setting an example of adherence to health guidelines. As you know, the election day is the day where you get the highest number of people on the street in this country. But as you know, there wasn't any transmission due to this massive election. That was simply because the way that we handled election. With all this emphasis on the new normalcy, which requires committed discipline from authorities and public alike, we witness certain lapses and excesses in the society. The country at times seemed to have taken for granted the limited freedom that was on offer. Because the freedom that we offered was for livelihood, for economic resurrection, but then sometimes we saw that it was taken for granted. Certain events and breaches of new normalcy further paved the way for the disaster waiting to happen, which was rather unfortunate. In this context, a 2-month period of virus-free status, the country was virus-free other than the repatriates, for 2 months, ended in a sudden eruption of an unprecedented Minuangoda cluster followed by the fish market cluster. In conclusion, however, I remain positive that our country leadership, healthcare system, and all other stakeholders backed by the public will once again be able to rise victorious over the second outbreak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, for those insightful comments and that amazing oration. Thank you very much. And you're indeed an absolute honor and a pride of our college as well. So I would like to invite the principal of our college, as well as the executive president of the OBA, as well as the vice president and the project chairman, to present Dr. Anil Jasinghe with a token of appreciation, a memento, for being the Olcott Orator for 2020. And I would also like to invite Mrs. Shashika Jayatilaka, the editor of the Ananda magazine, up on stage as well, because along with this token of appreciation, we would like to present you with a copy of the Ananda magazine that we have printed, we have published, along with the Olcott Oration. And also, for those of you who are tuning in from all across the globe, yes. For those of you who are tuning in from all across the globe, you can download the Ananda magazine. There's an e-file that is a downloadable file. The newsletter is available on the official OBA website. Thank you very much. And before the conclusion of today's proceedings, I would like to cordially invite Mr. Samita Seniviratna, the man behind the organizing committee, the man who made all of this happen, and the man who invited me to host this evening. So, the Vice President of the OBA and Committee Chairman, to deliver the vote of thanks for Olcott Oration 2020. Please give a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
They say the feeling gratitude and not expressing it is almost like wrapping a present and not giving it. So, my humble task here at this moment is to give that little bit to those who concern. Members of the head table, distinguished invitees, dear fellow old Anandians who are joining us through live streaming all over the world at this moment, well-wishers, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me an immense pleasure and an honor to have proposed the vote of thanks at this respectful remembrance of late Colonel Henry Steele Olcott, who made our destiny to where we are today. In the outset, I would like to express respectful gratitude for Mahasangha for observing the religious rites at this respectful event. The pinnacle of an Olcott oration is, of course, its orator. And we have just finished an informative and a fact-finding oration. And as such, would like to offer our gratitude to consultant Dr. Anil Jasinghe for having accepted our invitation and also delivering the same for 2020. Then comes our own principal, Mr. S.M. Kularatne, and of course the deputy principals, who have also been instrumental in making this event a success. And our gratitude also goes here as well for them for making this event a successful and meaningful. Our president, Mr. Dushmantha Karanagoda, the members of the management committee, and also the EXCO, has always been supporting, guiding at various points to maintain the standards of this event. So my gratitude always goes to, sincere gratitude goes to them as well at this point of time. And further, we always have had the blessings and guidance of our past presidents, particularly during our meetings, and just telling me various things to be adapted and various things to be included in this kind of events to make it happen, of course under these restricted circumstances. So I would like to make my humble appreciation for those our past presidents who have who helped us to make this event a success as well. Thank you so much, sir. Since this was organized as a virtual event, we have had to employ, of course, the modern technology to have the live streaming so that the fellow old Anandians across the world could witness this event from wherever they are. So I would like to recognize at this point the support extended by the various stakeholders to make it an uninterrupted event, and also to make it more elaborative, even though we have a very limited audience at today. The event of this nature at today's context, of course, needs publicity, and we would like to acknowledge the unprecedented support and the guidance given by both print and electronic media to make this message in a meaningful manner across all sections of the society and even to outside world. Main strength of our OBA is our affiliated groups, of course, both operating locally and overseas. And they have also extended their support at various ways to make this event successful as well. So I would like to also appreciate at this point of time their unstinted support extended. And we also extend our support to the School Development Society and the office bearers of the School Development Society for having given the opportunity to operate this this important event at this place. And also, I would like to this particular event actually would not have been a reality if not for the blessings given by the Chief Medical Officer of the City of Colombo, who have very openly given us the approval to go ahead with this event, of course with a limited crowd, under the health guidelines already declared by the state. So I would like to express my gratitude for him and his staff as well for having made this with a very swift note that they have done the needful for us. Then it goes without saying that organizing an event of this caliber under restricted circumstances is not an easy task, if not for the unstinted support, assistance, and at times the dedication given the members of my own committee. So I would like to personally, and also on behalf of the All Boys Association's Management Committee and the EXCO, to convey my sincere gratitude and appreciation for their unstinted support at this moment of time as well. finally, I would like to thank all those fellow old Anandians who are just gathering at this moment, having witnessing this important event through our live streaming across the world. So thank you very much for your time and dedication and being with us at this moment of time from wherever you are, at different times, of course. So with that note, I would like to conclude my vote of thanks for this Olcott Oration 2020. I wish you all the best and the blessings of Ananda at all times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samita Senratna. Even though as a little boy, I knew that the Olcott Oration has been happening since the late 60s. The first Olcott Oration that I attended was in 2012. And I was an assistant prefect, and I was right at that door. I was on ushering duty. And that day, I believe it was Niroshan De Silva who was hosting, who was announcing that Olcott Oration. And I told to myself that one day that I would like to host it myself. And Samit uncle, thank you so much for making that dream a reality. It's a dream that I've been having for 8 years now. And also the reason why we host an Olcott Oration and nothing else to commemorate our founding fathers. Obviously, we have all our religious activities and other activities as well. But the significance of the oration is that it is to propagate knowledge, is to ensure that you learn something from this, even a little thing. Some of you might know things all coming in, know the subject matter that is being discussed at the oration when you enter the auditorium. However, if one of us from the audience learns something new, that is the point of the Olcott Oration. So thank you very much for being a wonderful audience. We have an audience from all across the globe, unlike any other Olcott Oration like before. So thank you so much for being absolutely wonderful, and thank you so much for everyone who organized this event, as always. And my name is Litmal Jayawardena, and this is me signing out. May the blessings of Mother Ananda be with you.
සැලෙන්න අඩිපස්සට හැරෙන්න අනන්තතාපාන නොපමානි පුනෝමානි පුනෝමාන ගජතා බලේ අඟපත්නු එලෝ මෙලෝ සුවපත්තු අනාගතේ අනාගතේ පැවත්මු
කරනවෝ ආනන්දේ පුත්තු අපි ආනන්ද පුත්තු උරුමරකී පෙරදිනේ දියුණු ලොවේ පෙරමුණේ ආනන්දතාපාන නොපමානිපුඩු කුමරතාමාන ගජතා පිරුණු
ආදිරන් කතුරැස් අපේ කාලේ රන් සිසුරැස් විජාති බලදල සින්දු ලොවේම හෙළන මරන්තු ආනන්දේ පුත්තු අපි ආනන්ද පුත්තු එකාවාගේ නැගෙවි අනන්ද සරණ ලබාවි අනන්දතාපාන නොපමානිකුණු කුමරතාමාන ගජතා පිරුණු අනන්දතාපාන නොපමානි